Hello and welcome to Convicting. I'm your host, Robert Rosso. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. If you like the video, please push like and share it with your family, neighbors, friends, enemies, etc. Before I go any further, I need to say that tonight's video, I have talked about in the video I wrote about the video I recorded about John Stanfa. So a lot of it's repetitive, but I went back and happened to read some of my old writings. Specifically, I read a piece called The Sixth Family, which is posted on Guerrilla Convict still to this day. I would encourage you guys to go read it. There's a lot more in it that I'm going to talk about right here. Some of my earliest writings, so there's a bunch of mistakes. I remember I taught myself how to write. My education level really went to about the 7th grade before I stopped really paying attention. And then prison taught me I taught myself in prison how to read well, write, whatever. Anyway, I got to start this out with talking about two people, two guys who, in their minds, were just major members of the mafia or ties to organized crime. That is Nick Geo and Johnny Darko. The first, Nick Geo. Nick Geo was a kid from Chicago who's currently serving life in the Illinois state prison system, by the way, whose father, he was Greek, his father owned a liquor store where a bunch of the Greek mob guys used to hang out and conduct business. So the story goes. Apparently Nick had overheard some of these guys talking about this guy was a rat. Nick one day driving around sees the rat that they were talking about, has a childhood friend in the car, gets out, kills said rat, jumps back in the car, and either goes to the barrel of the gun or does something crazy and looked at the guy and said, "That's how we do it in the outfit." Now, Nick was not in the outfit. From there, I don't know who exactly hired him or why he did it, but he ended up burning down a bar that was near a rival mob place. So he did it for the mafia. When he went to trial, the leader of the mob, a guy named Gus, was said to have looked over and said, "Hey, who's this guy over here?" Meaning Nick. So they were all sitting there going to trial. He had no idea who Nick Geo was. Now, was indicted on an organized crime indictment, possibly RICO case. I'm not sure. He got hit with the arson and did 10 years in the feds. Johnny Darko, bank robber from New York. In Johnny Darko's mind, there was this task force that was after him, and I wrote in the story that the agent was Agent Cohen. I don't believe that was true now in retrospect. There was an agent that he had that was constantly like chasing the ever elusive Johnny Darko, who was like, you know, he was such an important criminal that they had a whole task force designed for him. Probably got that from mob books and about organized crime getting hit. I mean, police officers or task force being formed to go after organized crime, because in Johnny Darko's mind, he was like this organized crime figure. Really, he was a junkie, not putting down junkies, but he was a junkie who I think got out every time he got out and robbed the same bank and went right back in. I could be wrong. I think he did it twice. Anyway, both Nick Geo and Johnny Darko were very, very likable guys. But these guys were like frickin' frack, hung around each other, walked the track constantly, and tell each other these stories. Nick had stories where he went to islands and because Gus sent him there to like do work for the mob and stuff. Didn't happen, apparently. He was 18 when he got locked up. Anyway, I just wanted to paint the character how they were. Nick had a single cell when I met him, read true crime books all day when he was in a cell, and all the books on his shelf were mob books, every single one. He did sit in the chow hall where John Stanfa, Junior Bradley, Bobby Manning really didn't go to chow that much, but all the Bob guys, what's the guy who did the bagel shop shooting and missed the wrong guy? I talked about him the other day. People wanted to know. Not Gus. The bagel shop guy. I'll talk about him. So there was quite a few mob guys. There was a dozen mob guys probably at Leavenworth at that time. And that might be stretching it a bit. But Nick sat with them nevertheless. Well, one day, my friend Dusty, we were talking, and he brought up the fact about how Nick Geo had pulled him and Carl. Now, Carl was a guy from California, had a lot of influence. As a matter of fact, he was not a dirty white boy, but he really did run the dirty white boys. He was an older convict, had a lot of money, and he basically controlled the dirty white boys. That was that's what I saw. That's what everybody believed, but he was never a dirty white boy. That is a white prison gang in the feds. Nick Geo approached Carl and Dusty because they had some influence in the prison, and told them that they had this thing going on and wanted to know if they wanted to join. This thing was called St. Dismissed, and it was basically a mob family created by Nick Geo and Johnny Darko. Of course, when Nick approached them, they didn't laugh in his face, but later behind their backs, they were, tickled to death, thought it was funny, and we were kicking it one day, and we were laughing about this. Well, the next thing you know, I get approached by Nick Geo. At the time, Nick Geo approached me. He was with the guy from Philadelphia called Nick the Chemist, and also my former cellie, Tommy Rutledge. It was Rutledge who first said, that there's this thing that people are involved with that's big on the street, and it's called St. Dismas. It's like this secret mob family. At the time, I'm just blowed out on heroin. That's what I did pretty much all day, every day if I could. Drink, get high. I made a party out of my life sentence. That's the God's honest truth. Now, when I'm approached, Nick asked me if I can keep a secret. I wrote all about it again in the Six Family. I'd encourage everybody to go look at that. Nick asked me, and he really did look down on me. Nick was one of those guys that knew I got high. Guys that are mob tied a lot of times look down on junkies. And he was one of them. But here he was, kind of like, coming to me like, are you sick? Like I'm like this swell guy that he really, wants in this secret organization. After I was approached about it, I went back and talked to Dusty, who me and Dusty were like this, and we just laughed our asses off. It was like, who the fuck does this guy think we are to believe he's got some kind of secret society? Because that's how he was pitching it, this secret society, right? Because everyone in prison, although like Nick Geo, and he's a very likable guy, thought he was a complete whack job, as they did Johnny Darko. Again, these are guys that there are these organized crime members in their own heads, but nobody believed it. Even though Nick had done work for the Chicago Greek Mafia or whatever, it was like just some kid that fucked his life up over some bullshit, over idolizing the wrong people. Anyway, there came a point to where, again, and I'm not saying exactly how it was written in the story, but there came a point to when, again, I was approached, and it was by Nick the Chemist, who I liked a lot. By the way, Nick the Chemist, and I'll do the backstory there in a minute because this ties into everything. Nick the Chemist, I liked a lot. He did his fair share of things that I was doing on the down low. One of the leading methamphetamine cooks out of Philadelphia. So people out of the Philly area know who Nick the Chemist is. Now, it is important to back up here real quick. And this is what I talked about in the Stampa story. When Nick the Chemist got to Leavenworth, John Stanfa, head of the Philadelphia mob once upon a time, used to get the Philadelphia Inquirer, I think, had newspaper articles about Nick the Chemist. And during his trial or sentencing hearing, Nick the Chemist shouted out, "I thought I was here to get something good today." I might be paraphrasing, meaning it looked like he cooperated. He did cooperate with the government, and he told all of his co-defendants to. He told them how he got chemicals legally into the United States. He didn't take nobody down, give him a case. If that's ratting, whatever, I'm just saying what he did. He thought he was going to get 30 years. They gave him life without parole. When Nick arrived at Leavenworth, members of the Aryan Resistance Militia or Arms attacked him in his cell, and he beat all of them out. Like more than like 3 or more. Beat them out. Beat their asses. Lit them up. You can fight. Now, there was rumors that John Stanfa had put that hit out on him. But there was people in the know that said that Nick Geo is the one that actually did it. Again, this guy comes in, he's an alleged rat. Nick idolizes mob guys. John Stanfa said he was a rat, apparently. So Nick took it on his own initiative to pay $500 to the Aryan Resistance militia leader, who was Speed. Speed had his guys go in there, and his guys got beat out of there. He was an A2. Well, they go to the hole after the fight. They get back out on the compound. Nick the chemist then goes into B lower, where I'm at, and as is Nick Geo. Nick Geo quickly befriends Nick the chemist, makes him his little sidekick, his right-hand man. Or that, I shouldn't say right-handed man. They became friends. That's the truth. At some point, Nick Geo talks Nick the chemist into joining this St. Dismas crew, or the Sixth Family. And I'm going to go back, and I'm going to read kind of what I wrote. Okay, so alone in my cell, high on heroin, I was staring at 2 pictures on my bulletin board when I heard the knock on the door. Come in, I said. The door opened, and in walked Nick, Geo, and Nick the chemist. What are you doing? Asked Geo. I pointed at the 2 pinups, topless Kate Moss wearing Calvin Klein jeans and Heidi Klum in a swimsuit. Thinking about pussy, I said. Don't even get me started, Nick the chemist said. All I ever think about is pussy. Yeah, those are some pretty girls, Nick Geo said, admiring the photos. The chemist put his fingers on Heidi's vagina. What I wouldn't do to... Okay, I'm going to stop. That's actually what I was thinking about, I said. I was wondering whose vagina had the better taste. Nick Geo looked like he wanted to get sick. Ew, do you do that? That's filthy. Blood, discharge, and shit down there. Hey, don't knock it till you try it, I said. All this stuff is just seasoning for the main course. Nick the chemist was seriously contemplating my question. I'd say Heidi's snatch. Would you two stop with this already, Nick Geo said. I ignored him and said to chemist, why would you say Heidi? Because Kate Moss strikes me as a filthy whore, he responded. And my wife was a filthy whore, I said. And that girl had the best taste in me. Okay, so I'm getting way off course. I'm just reading what I wrote. Okay, Robert, tell me this. Can we trust you? Now, this is Nick the chemist. Oh, yeah, I thought. Here we go with some weird shit that's gonna ruin my high. Yeah, Nick, you can trust me. Why? Well, it's like this, Geo began. This was Geo now. Me and some guys in here belong to this thing. Do you know who St. Dismas is? I told him I did not. In the Bible, he's considered the saint of all thieves, Nick Geo continued. So basically what he is, he's a saint who watches over all of us convicts. Sorry, I took my glass. Lovely, I thought, like I don't have enough cameras, cops, and snitches watching over me. Now I've got to worry about some saint peeping over my shoulder as well. Okay, are you telling me this, and you're telling me this why? Yeah, so it's like this, I was saying, this is Nick. We have the secret society, and that's when it hit me, called our St. Dismas thing. Nick Geo was about to offer me a chance to join his fictional crime family, a group which I reasonably concluded that Nick the chemist was now a part of. And we're offering you this chance to join us, Nick Geo said. This thing is big, Robert. It'll change your life. I wanted to laugh so bad I couldn't stand it. I wanted to run out of my cell and find Dusty so I could tell him that the clown had just approached me with this dumb shit and that I was about to become a made man in Geoland. Ha! But I didn't. Instead, I embraced myself for a highly entertaining experience. I'd be honored, I actually said to Geo with a straight face. How do we go about making this official? Hey, this is true. This is true stuff now. The 3 of us were up in Nick Geo's cell, he on my left, Nick the chemist on my right. On the top of the locker, a candle burned. Using a sewing needle, Nick Geo pricked my finger and drew blood. Okay, he said, now I need you to pick up that picture of St. Dismas and smear blood all over his face. I reached down next to the candle, picked up old St. D, and did as I was told. What now, I asked. Now open your hand and lay the picture in your palm. I did. Nick Geo turned to Nick the chemist and said, I need you to pick up the candle and get ready to light the picture on fire. Speaking of fire, there was a fire in Nick Geo's eyes that I had never seen before. A sheen of sweat covered the top of his prematurely bald head. He was really into this shit. What am I supposed to do once the picture's on fire, I questioned. You can let it burn in your hand until it goes out, then you can scatter the ashes on the floor, was Nick Geo's reply. It'll be all right, the chemist assured me. Those were the first and only words I heard him speak since we were in the room, and I got the feeling that he wasn't entirely comfortable with this little ceremony. Okay, Robert, said Geo, I want you to repeat after me. He closed his eyes and began. May I burn? May my soul burn like this paper if I betray anybody in this room. God, I so badly wanted to laugh. This was so ridiculous. I was about to make an oath to a crime family that existed only in the minds of a couple of wackos, and now Nick the chemist was lighting St. Dismas on fire in my hand. Nick the chemist immediately, I began. May I burn? May my soul burn like my hand suddenly started to actually burn. Ouch, I yelled. I shook my hand. This effing hurt. Nick the chemist immediately stomped out the fire. Oh my God, Nick Geo exclaimed. What did he do? What? I said. The effing thing was burning my hand. What am I supposed to do? You weren't supposed to drop it, Geo shot at it. It's back. It's bad luck. Like I really gave a shit. Oh well, I said, I guess I'm not in. I turned to leave. Wait a minute, Nick Geo said, stopping me with his hand. Oh, it'll be okay. Although he said those words, he sure didn't look like he was going to be okay. He looked distraught. Let me make a few phone calls and I'll get this straightened out. He actually told me that he was going to make phone calls to see if me dropping St. Dismas can I still be a membership of this little sixth family? Okay, Johnny D had just been released from prison. I could just see Nick Geo on the phone with him explaining how I dropped the burnt saint. So Johnny Darko got out and then he went and robbed the bank and came back in because he left prison. So what do I do from here, I asked. Nick Geo gave me a half-hearted smile. For now, we're all done, but we'll soon start having sit-downs in the chapel. Sit-downs in the chapel. And you're required to be there. He leaned in, grabbed my face, and gave me a kiss on both cheeks. Welcome to the family. We love you. Stop. Imagine, listen, can I explain this to you guys, especially everybody on the East Coast that says, who is this guy? Why is he? I was dying inside. I was laughing my freaking ass off. I wanted to pee my pants. I was laughing so hard. This is this is freaking Cartoonville to me. All right, so I swear on my mother, this is a true story. I mean, this is, okay. Okay, then he leaned and grabbed my face. Who exactly belonged to our loving family? I had no clue. But I would soon find out that we were about to become one member short. Less than a week after I swore my allegiance to our St. Dismas thing, Nick Geo convinced Nick the chemist that the former Philadelphia mob boss, John Stanfa, had been the one who attempted to have him assaulted by members of the Aryan Resistance Militia. Furthermore, Geo claimed that he just learned that Stanfa had turned to another prison gang called the Dirty White Boys to get the job done. The Dirty White Boys aren't like the arms, Geo warned the chemist. They'll put steel in you. So, Nick Geo was telling Nick the chemist that John Stanfa originally put this contract out with the arms and tried to have him hit. Now he's saying that the Dirty White Boys are about to do it. He's playing these little Machiavellian moves or whatever. This was all Nick Geo, by the way. Nick Geo didn't know it, but his little Machiavellian scheme was the beginning of his end. Can I have everyone's attention? Nick Geo stood at the head of the table waiting for everyone in the room to quiet down. Standing next to this guy was a 4-foot. Okay, so I wrote this terrible. So here's what happened. We go to the chapel. We start having these sit downs. And let me tell you something. Nick Geo convinced some of the most influential guys in Leavenworth at that time to do this crazy omerta shit. To do this crazy Nick. So I can totally see now in my life how cults get started. Did anybody ever believe this guy? To this day, I don't know. Did everybody just want to see what the hell was going on? I mean, again, to me, this was like, man, let's go do some heroin and then let's go to our little fantasy six family meetings. Okay, so anyway, sure enough, like I said in the Stanford video, Nick the chemist goes and smashes John Stanford. I say smashes. He hit him in the chow hall. He had a can in his hand, aluminum soda can that was filled too. I was there the day that happened, and I just read this, and I was going back over it. I was with a guy named Phil. We were drinking tomato paste wine, 2 quarts, and eating steak and scallops. We were part of the napkin crew, which meant that we literally took napkins and folded them and put them in pants. Prior to that, there used to be napkin holders all over the tables in Leavenworth, but people would put drugs and little knives or whatever in the napkin holders, and they were using them to do contraband stuff, you know? So they took out the napkin holders and the salt and pepper shakers and everything. The feds are all about take. Anyway, so John Stanford gets hit. Nick Geo is the one, Nick the chemist is the one that does it. Nick Geo orchestrates it. Now, Nick Geo, the biggest guy, one of the biggest white guys in the federal system was Jerry Benham. He just gets there, and Nick Geo instantly recruits Big Jerry, who's brand new, into this St. Dismas thing. He's at the chapel. We have meetings in the chapel, and let me tell you what we used to eat in the chapel, what Nick Geo would bring. Most of the guys were sitting at the table, a few standing. Somehow Nick, a Catholic, had convinced the chaplain that we belonged to the Bible study group and asked if we could provide us with a private room so we can come together and study the teaching of our Lord and Savior Jesus H. Christ in peace. The chaplain, a man who was more interested in collecting a paycheck than saving souls, agreed. We were allowed to use the room in the chapel every Saturday for at least 1 hour. I took a swig from the bottle and passed over to, "This is effing crazy," I whispered outside my house. "We all must be retarded." Talking about all of us in the room. We used to go in there, and again, I would go in there high, and we'd I'd bring booze, and we'd drink in the chapel. And smoke weed, because the chapel was a good place to smoke weed in Leavenworth. I looked around them, 14 people. That's 14 people who Nick Geo and Johnny D, certifiable wackos, had managed to recruit into their little fantasy mafia. 14 guys. These weren't just nobodies in Leavenworth. Let me say, they weren't just nobodies. They were people that had influence in this prison. And I put, "Now I know how cults get started. There's plenty of good food to go around," Nick Geo said. "Robert, how about it? Are you ready for another sandwich?" "I'm fine," I said. "Ham sandwiches, potato chips, ham. Not BS ham. I'm talking about good cut, sliced ham that I just bought a big ham not long ago. Actually, it was for what holiday we passed it. Posted on my Facebook. It was like that ham. It was phenomenal ham. Nick Geo. Ham sandwiches in the chapel. Potato chips, chocolate cookies, cinnamon rolls, and soda. BYB. "Babe, turn off the air condition, please." Sorry, guys. I nudged Dusty at the elbow. Okay, so we go out, we smoke pot. Smoke a break. I'm in the room. I'm going to miss coming here and eating all this grub. Dusty confessed taking the joint from my fingers. And this private room is pretty cool. The guards could never come here and mess with us. I changed the subject. Okay. So, I just wanted to make sure. I'm sorry, guys. Please bear with me. Please bear with me. So, here's what happens. John Stanford finds out that Nick Geo had set this all up. There was a guy out of Philadelphia named Brian who was friends with one of the dirty white boys, shot callers, and a deal was made. The deal was made for drugs in exchange for hitting Nick Geo via the John Stanford thing, allegedly. I allegedly was involved. When I went out there to talk about the actual, what was going to be got, how much was the contract, blah, 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 the alleged contract, Brian had this guy named Bobby. Bobby just came from Atlanta and was telling me, like, "We really thank you." He inserted himself in some mob family too. I don't know which one. I wouldn't talk around him. I treated him bad. You can go read that Six Family. You can see what's up. And sure enough, when he left Atlanta and came to Leavenworth, he just burned a bunch of organized crime figures in Atlanta and some other guys. Set him up on drug conspiracies. Started drug conspiracies from prison and then burned them. He was from Iowa, by the way. Bobby from Iowa. Okay, so I go out there and now I'm part of this thing. And I'm not a dirty work with this time. My friends all are. I'm running with them. Nick Geo. One day, a guy by the name of Randy, good friend of mine, who's Dusty Selly, who also knows that there was a contract paid by somebody that alleged Stanford did it to the dirty white boys. Dusty is involved. He's going to do the hit. Him and a guy named Wilbur. Randy, Dusty Sully gets drunk. Randy's a good guy, but he was just drunk. And for whatever reason, went and told Nick Geo to watch his back. Put Nick Geo on alert. Now Nick Geo's totally on point and freaking out. Nick Geo comes to me because he knows I hang around with Randy. Me and Randy were also running buddies. Randy was actually a millionaire out of Ohio who just got caught up in drug conspiracy, got 30 years, but he was not convict-like, had money and did his own thing and had influence by his money in prison. So at that point, so Nick Geo's now on point. The next day, now you got Big Jerry. Big Jerry's on Nick Geo's side. Remember, he's part of the St. Dismas thing. We're all St. Dismas, brother. We're all part of this sixth family. Nick tried to pump me. He had Jerry try to come pump me, basically threaten me because Jerry was a big guy. I said I didn't know what he was talking about. Meanwhile, a pipe was coming in the block to smash Nick Geo. And I already said it in the other video. Long story short, Dusty and Wilbur going to Nick Geo's cell. Nick Geo's talking about how he heard that something's going wrong, and they ended up beating him up in that cell. Sliced his face, and Nick Geo went cartwheeling down the stairs. It was actually an amazing acrobatic feat. And that was the end of the sixth family. I talked about the story tonight. There was a couple things I was going to do for Mob Monday, and somebody who's been following me for a long time brought it up. They thought this was one of the better stories I did back in the day, and I just had to put it out there. And really, what is the moral story? Because I've rehashed a bunch of stuff, but it's just to show you like how again, I guess it's a good example of how things can get started. But everybody, I'm telling you, everybody just considered Geo and Darko, especially, just these kind of wackos. But when I say that, because I've gotten lashed out by Nick Geo's family before, that is not to say that Nick wasn't a respectful, good guy in prison. He just has this wild imagination, as do many prisoners. He put himself in places that he never could have been. He had pictures of himself with all these super expensive sports cars that he actually rented, but said were his. Family had big money, from what I was told. Good family, from what I was told. I had to put that out there because I've been hit before by it. That not everybody in that family was involved in this and that. But anyway, what I just told you, the St. Dismas Mafia, the sixth family, is 1,000% accurate and true. Maybe there's a little few things that I'm saying in this story that weren't exactly going to match when you go read it. Maybe there's just a few things in the Stanford story that I put out. They won't exactly everything I'm telling you happened. And it's just mind-boggling, right? I mean, I think about it now and it's just like, holy shit. And we went probably to 6 family sit-downs. What was talked about in those sit-downs? Nothing. It was just Nick Geo. Nick Geo pretty much provided all the food. It was bring your own food. We brought our own booze and drugs. Dusty was there and a couple guys. But he provided all the food, and it was like excellent food. Matter of fact, he got it from Junior Bradley, who ran the kitchen. If you don't know Junior Bradley, he was a fence out of Kansas City for the mob ties. Just a great guy, and he had it going on. Junior Bradley got things into that prison, not drugs, not contraband, food that nobody else in the chow hall ate. Only a selected few. And he hooked guys up in the kitchen more because he cooked. He loved cooking Italian food and was great at it. Anyway, the sixth family. So maybe if some of my sixth family brethren are out there, we can get it kicked off on the street. Happy Mob Monday.